There's Sandra.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good.
Excuse me, Commissioner Cosgrove?
Waiting for Frank and Jen to jump on.
Hello? Commissioner Cosgrove, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you please mute
Yes.
your phone?
Let me send them a quick text.
Yes, sorry about
Okay.
that.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are ready to call to order the Historic Preservation Commission meeting. And we will start with roll call.
Thank you. Chair Laramie,
Here.
Vice Chair Levine, Commissioner Stodel,
Present.
Commissioner Hotchkiss, Commissioner Serfas, Commissioner Cosgrove. She's
Here.
away. Thank you. Commissioner Palacios, Commissioner Moody,
Here.
Commissioner Perdue, Commissioner Grimmer,
Here.
Commissioner Harper,
Here.
Commissioner Seabrandt. Here. Thank you. We do have a quorum.
Great, thank you. Our second item is an announcement regarding compliance with the open meeting law. Are we in compliance?
Yes, we are.
Item number 3 is public comment. Comment during this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters on the agenda for action. If you wish to be heard, please come forward and give your name for the record. The amount of discussion, as well as the amount of time any single speaker is allowed, may be limited. Do we have anyone from the public wishing to come forward? Seeing no one, we'll move on to item number 4 for possible action to approve the final minutes by reference of the regular meeting of June 24th, 2026. Do we have any comments on the minutes? And if not, I'd look for a motion.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Any opposed?
Hi.
That motion carries with the chair also voting in favor. Item number 5, 26-0282-HPC1. This is an abeyance item, a report by Jay Dapper, principal of Dapper Companies, regarding the status of the Huntridge Theater, located at 1208 East Charleston Boulevard.
Good afternoon. Jay Dapper, 5030 Paradise Road, Suite C214. I am here to give an update on our progress as far as the Huntridge Theater and what's been going on. And so I provided an update package to Diane recently, and wondering if you all received it. I know that we're going to look at it today, but just wanted to find out if everybody received it.
I don't believe so. It's not in our backup material, but we do have your slides on our screens.
Okay.
Stephen, for the record, when did you send that?
This, I sent it, I think, yesterday?
The backup, you talked about what you're presenting here.
Yes.
That is, it's not the backup, it's his presentation.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, when I send it, in addition to the city getting it, does it get sent out to each of the commissioners?
No, because that's why we ask you to send it a week in advance.
Okay.
Because our agendas are due a week in advance, and that's when we have to include the backup. Otherwise, it's a presentation here.
Got it. Okay. Understood. Okay. So, so this is progress on the public-private partnership nonprofit stewardship model that we've put forward, and the advisory board and needs assessment that AMS has been working on. I've been working with AMS, and so has the city, and then also the group of individuals that are in the we'll say the performing arts community. They've been working with AMS for quite some time. The group came down from out of town, and they spent 3 days here in Las Vegas doing interviews, and then they've been continuing to do interviews. I just saw the initial draft of their assessment. I think the assessment is being broken up into maybe 2 or 3 phases, as I understand it. And so I think that the city is currently reviewing the first phase. Also, they're going to be making comments, and my hope is that by the next time that I come for an update next quarter, that assessment will be complete, or at least that first phase of the assessment will be complete, and we'll be able to share it with the HPC. So basically what I just described is kind of what this slide is all about. Just explains that that we've been participating in this AMS assessment. I do believe that the board was provided the original proposal, correct? Seth, when I talked to Seth, he said that the original proposal was requested by the board and that was sent out.
We'll have to check that.
Okay, so I don't know if that was provided to you guys. I mean, that's been out for quite some time, and
Chair, just so I could, when you're talking about original proposal, what are you referring to? Are you referring to the survey, the funding that the Parks and Rec is doing?
yeah. So AMS is the group that is doing the study.
That's correct. So I'm asking you, the question is, when you last appeared, you presented the agreement between AMS and the city.
Right.
That agreement was rejected, and a new agreement was put in place
Yeah, I
with the
understand.
dates that I think you're reflecting here. This commission has never received the actual contract. The one that was given to us was outdated, was never used. We have not received that, nor have we received a copy of the questionnaire that AMS sent out.
Okay, so deal with those in order. So last time I spoke with Seth in regards to this, I understand the original agreement was, when you say rejected, I think that there was a request to break it up into parts. And so I think that was the big change. That occurred, the city executed that and moved forward on it, and the study began. And the last time I talked to Seth about this, he told me that proposal has been sent to the commission. If it hasn't, I know that Seth, you have that, and that has been sent, correct?
I'll have to double check and see if that's been sent, but yeah, we can send you the proposal, but I walked in on the part where apparently there was a question about the 2 phases of the AMS study. There was a phase 1 and a phase 2 to the extent that it was broken up. So phase 1 is nearing completion right now.
Actually, what my question was, still off for the record, was at our last meeting with Mr. Dapper, a contract, an agreement with AMS was presented to us as the one that was going to move forward. And apparently that one was not a new one that has potentially 2 phases, and we're in the first phase. And that was signed on, if I'm not mistaken, on May 20th of this year, actually at 11:37 in the morning. So we should be getting the first results of that within 90 days. So we should be getting some information ASAP.
Yeah.
And then there's the next one that comes in 120 days, and that's the wrap up. But this commission has not seen that.
Yeah,
has not seen what is being done that the city is paying for. So we don't know what the city has asked AMS.
Okay, so Commissioner, so just to clarify, so I think that the substance of the original proposal that I had brought in last time is the same, and I think that the only real deviation or change was that there was 2 different phases, I believe. And Seth, if I'm not mistaken, I thought that I know there's a lot of feedback. I thought that proposal, after it was signed, was distributed out to the Historical Preservation Commission, because I mean, Commissioner, you said you know the date that it was signed.
Right.
So how would you know that if you don't have the agreement?
Because I found a way to get a copy of it.
So you do have a copy of it?
I do have a copy of it, and it is It is not a feasibility study as has been described. It's not anything anywhere close to a feasibility of the process that was presented. All it is looking at the local community, theatrical community, and see if they would want to use it. The questionnaire that was sent out to all these groups really doesn't have to do with a financial feasibility as whether or not they could use something like this. The question of who's going to pay for all of this, that's not in this study. That's not what this study is about. It's not a feasibility study.
Yeah, I think so the study, it starts off with asking the question, and so first before you figure out, and I think the purpose of this, and, although I'm not AMS, but, I've been on several of the calls associated with it, and I think I have a pretty good understanding of what they're trying to do and what they've been directed to do, is first and foremost, they have to assess whether there's a need for space like this. And so the assessment starts off with asking questions about each one of these theater groups. Some of them are jazz groups. I mean, there's a lot of different groups, but it's understanding exactly what the need is. Is there an abundance of spaces that are out there that already meet these needs, or is this something that is needed in our community? And so that's the first part of it.
Right.
The financial part of it that you described, it comes in later phases, but that can't be analyzed until we really understand what we're looking at. And so I think that it's a very comprehensive and good way to look at it. In fact, it was much more comprehensive than I originally imagined it would be. Maybe that's the reason that it was broken up into multiple phases. And the amount of data and information that they've collected and assembled is significant. And so I've only just seen it as of like 2 days ago. I mean, I was on a conference call where they went through it and they started to, it's a draft. And so it hasn't really been put out as of right now. But it was the very first time that I had seen it. I did participate in the interview process. I know quite a few other people who did as well. And it was a pretty extensive interview process. I think out of the 40 plus people who participated, which were, a lot of different groups that would utilize the Huntridge at some point in time, I think only 1 or 2 didn't participate and the rest all did. So I was really pleased with what I saw.
Again, the only question I ask is my frame of reference is the preservation of the restoration of the Huntridge Theater.
Yeah.
And so the question is why I'm wanting to do a deep dive into this proposal, if it's financially feasible to buy it, if it's financially feasible to restore it, if it's financially feasible to turn it into a theater, and then if it's financially feasible to operate it. That's what's going to be the restoration, saving that building. That's why I'm interested in this as rather than whether we're going to paint it blue or green or neon. So, I think it'd be important for this commission to be involved to some degree and certainly understanding and get copies of these reports. Again, first one I think is, as you described, it's simply going out and asking all these small theatrical groups that maybe have room for 50 or 60 chairs in what they're doing to see whether or not they would like to use the Huntridge. But the reality of that paying for the Huntridge is a whole another survey that needs to be done. So I appreciate the effort, and I didn't mean to go off on a tangent here. So thank you, Chair.
Well, but I do want to say, I mean, I think you're absolutely correct. So that assessment is what's going to directly affect the cost of the renovation. I think that what we found originally was we had an architect just, design a space, not really understanding what the true needs were. And so if you go out and you price the renovation of a building, but you don't really know what it needs to look like and how it needs to act, then it's just an exercise. And so I think that where this study and, the subsequent, the next phases of the study go, if the initial phase of the study found that there's no need for this, then, like you just said, then what's the point of doing a further assessment and saying the cost to renovate this building as a community theater is X if there's no need. So I think that.
But again, Seth, I think it would be helpful for the commissioners if we could see a copy of the actual agreement with AMS and the questionnaire that, so we could get an understanding of the process of getting from A to B if this is feasible.
Yeah, as far as I understand it, now that this process is wrapping up, because they don't want to, you know, when I say prematurely send all this information out. So they're going through that. And as I understand it, now that we're just at the tail end of it, and I don't know if it's appropriate, I guess I would ask.
No, I'm talking about just the agreement itself and the questionnaire.
Yeah, well, no, I know.
Not the results.
No, I understand. The agreement itself, I believe, you said you already have a copy of it, but there should be no reason that the board couldn't have a copy of that agreement today, right?
So I'm trying to check, I'm having trouble logging in. I believe it's actually linked in your backup because Jay included that. He handed that to the commission
That
at the
one
last
wasn't the
meeting.
one that was accepted by the city. It was changed.
So I could certainly send out, I'm looking at it right now, I have the executed contract that
Right.
outlines phase one. I do not have the questions. I was never provided those. I can go see if I can find them. But I've not seen the questionnaire. So unless I can find that somewhere, I've not seen it.
So just to ask a question, so it's not, I don't think there's anything confidential about it. So, I mean, the original contract that was signed, that could be given to the commission. And then the questionnaire that EMS sent out, I'm sure that can be given. If you don't have a copy of it, I can request that, and I can certainly send it to you guys, and then you can distribute it out.
I just happened to, one of the downtown theatrical groups just sent me a copy. That's the only reason why I've got a copy
Oh, so you do have a copy of it?
of the questionnaire.
Oh, I thought you said you didn't have a copy of it.
No, the commission doesn't. The commission members don't have a copy. They should have a copy of that. The reason I can't make a copy of it is this is from a person who filled it out and sent me a copy of what they filled out, and I don't feel comfortable in supplying that. So a blank one would be great. So the commissioner could see what the questions were that were
Yeah.
being asked.
So I went through the process, the interview process, but I don't actually have a copy of the questionnaire myself. But what I can do is I can request AMS to provide that, and then I can send it to the, if the city doesn't have it, I can provide it to the city and the city can distribute it.
I'd be surprised if Parks and Recs doesn't have a copy, but
Yeah, I was actually going to just clarify. So part of the reason why I don't have everything associated with it is because the report is not finalized and that contract is actually managed by Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs. So I likely won't see all of the materials, including the finished product, until they've done their review, which I don't believe they've finalized yet.
This is Chair Laramie. Can we pause for a minute and just clarify a few things around the needs assessment? Because I have some confusion on my part. So my understanding, Mr. Dapper, is the needs assessment is a study commissioned by the city to look at the greater need for theatrical art spaces around the city, and contemplating whether or not the Huntridge could be one of those spaces that are needed among potentially other spaces that could be needed. Can you clarify your role in this study? Because I'm not sure I'm clear on that.
Okay. Well, I think that what you said is fairly accurate. I think that AMS spent a lot of time evaluating the needs of the community, and then also they are evaluating whether or not that the Huntridge fits those needs, specifically the Huntridge. My role in it would be, I guess I'm the current owner of the Huntridge.
Okay.
So
I guess the point I'm trying to make is I understand that the needs assessment will be helpful for your work, but it's very confusing for us to hear information that basically kind of positions yourself as a project manager or a leader for the study when it doesn't sound like you have really a lot of knowledge other than participating in the study about what it's looking at or what it's finding. And so that creates a lot of conflicting information for us
don't-
up here, and we're not entirely sure how to, at least I'm speaking for myself, I'm not entirely sure how to process that information without a copy of the scope of work or the draft of what's being, what the findings are, when it seems like it's a little bit of hearsay that we're being presented.
Yeah, so I disagree, and I don't think that that's accurate, what you just said. So just to be clear, so I didn't just participate in it. So, I mean, the group that, AMS, they came down, they spent, hours with me, interviewing me, understanding specifically the Huntridge project. So it's not like they're just here to assess the needs and say, what's out there in the community that could potentially be a great place for this to happen. It's directed at and for the Huntridge. So that's number one. And as far as my participation in it, I mean, along with Maggie at the city, I mean, I was presented, their findings and discussed many things with AMS as they went through the process. More importantly, the public-private partnership that would be created, which is under evaluation, that would be, the Huntridge Conservancy, which we've created, and now I was about to give an update on where we're at with that, but that's exactly what this assessment is for. And so I think that I would be a big part of that, and specifically the Huntridge Conservancy would, because once the theater would be handed off to this public-private partnership, it would very much use this study, the methodology, and then more importantly, the data that it's collected to really get it right, make sure that the groups that are associated with the study, are participating in it. And then as the design and changes are, flushed out, meaning like each one of these groups, we're not going to take a survey of 40 different groups and then go, okay, here's the laundry list of all the things that those groups need, and we're going to associate all the changes and revisions into the set of plans. That's not the way that's going to work. The idea is taking all of this data, deciding what's really important, what can fit, because obviously there are constraints. This being a historic building, if tomorrow it's decided that there needs to be a 20,000 square foot, add-on for, like, one of the things that they focused on is there's a tremendous need for rehearsal space, and that doesn't exist. And so if that's not incorporated in our design, and we can't just bolt that onto the front because this is a historic building, all of those things need to be taken into consideration. So I think that it's unbelievably important for us to be able to determine like what we're going to build in the future. One of the things that we didn't do was a good assessment, and we didn't really understand what was needed. And so like Commissioner Stoddall said, it's one thing to just say it's going to be beautiful and it's going to be white, but in this particular case, we have to make sure that the functionality of what's needed can fit within this box. And so, I don't see how, realistically, if this is going to be a success, I don't see how we would get there in any other way. And this probably should have been done a long time ago. This is the first time that I've ever developed or built anything that, has, multiple users like this and has all these needs. And so it is a very difficult process to understand and figure out. But as we've gone along, I think that we've finally landed on a really good pathway to get to a point where this can be a success.
Okay,
So
and
I hope
understand.
that answers your questions.
Yes, somewhat. And I understand the importance of the study. I think what I'm confused about is, you're talking about some potential findings of the study, but you're using kind of an explanation of, to your understanding and from what I've seen so far. And so it's unclear to me how much of the findings of the report are really known right now and what you can be presenting to us at this time.
Well, I'm not presenting the report because it's not complete. What I'm doing is I'm giving you an update on what's occurred from the last time I was here to today. And so I think that we've advanced, I think we've made tremendous progress because this first phase of this report is almost done. And I can tell you from the findings, right now, it looks like there's a tremendous need. There's lots of groups that are interested in participating in this particular project. And I'm excited at, being able to, give that to the board. And I think that my question to the city staff would be, once this is completed, instead of waiting until the next HPC meeting, is it possible that once the phase one is complete, that can be sent to the board for, so that they can see it ahead of, waiting 2 or 3 months?
So Seth Floyd, for the record, I mean, it's a public document. As soon as it's done and we've had a chance to review it, it's available for them to review. I don't know how Parks and Rec plans to present those findings, but certainly once there's a report, it's available to anybody.
Okay.
Chairman, I'm sorry. Jim Lewis, I'm with the Attorney's Office. I guess there's a logical piece that I think I hear from Mr. Stoddall and Ms. Laramie, and now I'm a little bit, maybe what I'm hearing people try to ask is, what is the connection between a Parks and Rec report and the Historic Preservation Commission? Because it's the Parks and Recreation Department that's putting together a report for something that may or may not be related to this commission, except for the settlement agreement between the commission and you. So I don't know if I'm helping or not. If I'm not helping, and if I've heard something incorrectly, I'm not on the board. I don't need my questions answered. But if I'm helping translate what I think I hear, please let me know. Or let us know.
The question that I had is this Parks and Recreation has funded a report that is the very beginning effort of a new way of restoring the Huntridge, this historic building. That's our connection. I mean, our connection is through Seth and Diane in many ways, but the money for the survey came from Parks and Rec, and they're looking at it from a Parks and Rec perspective as to whether this is a viable concept. Because as you look around this community, I was amazed at the number of existing facilities that the city operates that are already in place, and why some of these downtown theatrical groups are not using those and want to use potentially the Huntridge. The Huntridge is not going to be a blank check. They're not going to be able to walk into that building and say, here, I want to put on this show for the next week, and it's going to be, you're not going to charge us any money. Well, that's not what it's all about. What you said is exactly right. This is the first phase to see if there's a need. And the need is simply part of the longer process of restoring this building. So we got a long ways to go before this idea, if it's, I don't know, one of the questions I'm going to ask you is has the city said it's going to pay for half, and have we gotten the appraisals? But I'm going to let you finish your report.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, the slide that's currently up, and I mean, to further, answer your question, what's the connection? I mean, I think, in my opinion, and I mean, you can have a different opinion, but preservation of a building is one thing. If we went out and simply renovated the Huntridge and made it look nice, but then it sat empty and not activated, I don't know that is, I wouldn't say that that's a win, and I definitely think that is something that, I mean, I'm not aiming to do. It's not financially feasible and doesn't make sense. And so part of having a successful project, in this case, like normally, I finished the Mission Linen building. I have multiple tenants in that building, and what ended up being in there, which was a museum and multiple food and beverage businesses, it made sense, and it makes sense. This is a little bit different because the use cause or case, for that matter, needs to be correct. And in the very beginning, the idea was I was going to just renovate it and I was going to have a single tenant occupy the space. But the reality is that wouldn't work. That tenant was a nonprofit, and the amount of rent that they agreed to pay on an annual basis wasn't going to work. And so if I would have completed the renovation and they would have opened for business, eventually they would have handed me back the keys likely. And then I would have had a beautifully restored building that's not activated. And I don't think that that's what anybody wants to see. This assessment is the first step. And I think that the findings, based on what I've seen so far, show that there is a tremendous need. Commissioner Stoddall, I mean, as you pointed out, there was a question in my mind, and I think that this assessment definitely answers it. And it's like, why, there's libraries and the Smith Center and many other venues in our town. So if all of those places are there and built and available, why can't these groups go there? And, as I understand it, and I don't know why this is, and I'm not going to get into the, economics of it, but, I said, the libraries, there's a venue that's up in the Summerlin that, the library system, Clark County runs. And I'm like, why isn't that used more often? And apparently, whatever their price structure is, it's very high. And a lot of these nonprofits, as I understand it now, after participating and going through this exercise, there's a price that they're paying to be there that's, too high. And I'm like, how is that possible? And I don't understand why, the library, charges prices that are too high, but apparently all of these users think that that's the case. And so part of this assessment is looking at all these other places and why they're not being utilized or why they don't fit the financial model. And so I think it's really helpful for me to understand that. And it's the very reason why the Huntridge being a nonprofit and ultimately being, owned by the Huntridge Conservancy that's set up to have a strong foundation of being a nonprofit, I think is why this makes a lot of sense. And so this slide, just tying it all together, this is going to create a durable nonprofit foundation for the project. It aligns the preservation, arts, education, community, and city goals. So the idea behind this is that when this is done and we have all the information, we'll make sure that everything ties together. When it is completed, it'll allow the Huntridge to serve as a nonprofit for, all of these users that are out there and not be just for commercial events. Because what I found is that in today's world, events that are held, in casinos right now today, the Huntridge used to be a place where concerts happened. And that was at a time when there was no, there wasn't a bunch of casinos grabbing up performers and paying 3 or 4 times their going rate. Today, when a big time performer comes to town, they oftentimes get booked at a casino because the casino will pay 3 or 4 times their going rate, and they don't need to necessarily sell tickets to make it all pencil and make sense because they're just looking for people to walk in the door. And that was an important thing that I didn't really understand in the beginning. So if tomorrow it was open and I said, hey, I'm going to have concerts here, I would never be able to pay the dollars necessary to get the right performers to perform at the Huntridge, and that's a very important thing. And then, the last thing is, focus on building a lasting institution, not just renovating a building. And I think that that's really the statement that matters. It's renovating a building that ends up being empty is not what my goal is. It's to be able to see that it's used and utilized by the community and all of these groups. And so I think that that's what the first step of this assessment is doing. So I'm going to just move forward to this. So we've worked, quite a bit on the advisory board that is going to be formed. I've taken out the candidates and the notes, but this is the evaluation that we're using to create the advisory board that's going to help guide this process. The idea is there's 2 pages of this, so I'll just toggle back and forth, is we wanted to outline, what kind of people and groups do we need to include in this advisory board so that we can make good decisions. And you can see principal is the first category, which I would be in that category. Community advocates, you know, those are people, could be somebody like you. You know, programming and booking, we need to have somebody that's a part of this group that understands what this will look like on the back end, because once you finish the project, if it doesn't work and the booking part of it doesn't happen, then it's not a success. We have to have somebody that's from the legal community on the board. We actually already have a couple of people that have committed to this. Finance, which goes back to Commissioner Stodall's comment, we need to make sure that I can tell you how to pencil a for-profit project, but I've never had to figure out a nonprofit project. So there's a couple of groups that specialize in that, and we're bringing those groups on board to kind of help better explain how that nonprofit, you know, fundraising piece works. Marketing and communications, you know, there's a lot of people in the theater industry and the performing arts industry that kind of fit this box. Somebody that's more technical, like an architect, and then the funding and community engagement piece, and then ultimately a facilitator. So, which we have a gentleman that's worked with the Philharmonic and a bunch of other really great organizations that's signed on to kind of help with that. And so we have a pretty good list of candidates, and you know, we want to make sure that the group is not too large, but we spent a lot of time putting this together. And then, you know, probably by the next time I come, I will have the board formed, you know, all the invitations out, and I'll be able to say these are all the people that are a part of this group. This is just the explanation of what AMS is doing. The city retained AMS planning and research to evaluate potential users and the community needs. The work is still in draft form and under city review, which is accurate. So as long as there's no reason that the commission can't have those findings, I'm sure that once the phase one is completed, it'll be sent to you guys and you can review it. It's a very comprehensive, so far what I've seen, the evaluation is very comprehensive. And you know, it's evaluating many different things, but it's really going to help us decide, you know, what we currently have designed, if it will work. The black boxes that we currently have designed in the back, you know, are those needed, and do we need to do those in phases? Because that was one of the big questions that we came up on, is if we want to move this project forward quickly, does it make more sense to complete the renovation of the theater and then leave those boxes that are in the back as, you know, separate phases? And I think that ultimately that's where we'll land, but it's hard to get there and make a good decision until the assessment is complete. And then this is really next steps and path forward. So finalize the Conservancy and Advisory Board structure, which is what we're doing now. Complete the city review of AMS with AMS, and so that's underway, and I believe that that'll be done in short order. We need to continue refining the acquisition framework with the city, as Commissioner Stodall pointed out. You know, will that work? Part of this assessment, and you know, how we present this and move forward with the city. As Seth, I think, will tell you, that decision hasn't been made, and so in order for the city even to agree on how they're going to move forward, I think this assessment's very important. That leads us to develop the capital campaign and philanthropic strategy. So all of those things really can't be decided until we know what the theater is going to look like, and more importantly, if we're going to build it in phases, or if we're only going to, or if we're going to do it all together. So that's really important for us to know. And then number 5, which is I think what is really important to this commission, is to begin restoration. And you know, so that part of it has to come after all of these other things are done, and then continue the outreach for the future programming is kind of the last thing that's like after we're already done. And then that's the end of the presentation. So I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you have, and would be glad to, you know, go over any of the things that I just talked about today.
Thank you for the presentation. I'm sure there's a lot of questions on the commission. We just were handed a copy of the Hundredge Theater market assessment. So I'm sure we're not going to be able to digest this now and be able to, talk about it too much more.
Excuse me, when you say the market assessment, what do you mean by that?
The title of the contract is Hundredge Theater Market Assessment.
Oh, you're saying the one that the city, here.
Yeah, and if I could, Seth Floyd for the record, if you look to the last 3 pages, the exhibit, that is actually the proposal. And that outlines the approach and the methodology. You'll see under methodology, phase 1 is a market assessment. That is what was scoped by AMS.
Okay.
Yeah, and just to tell you, although I've participated in this, I have, this is the first time I've seen this as well. So I wouldn't be able to answer the professional services agreement. I mean, this is something that the city, somebody in Parks and Rec signed, so.
I think just to start, to clarify my, kind of question, I guess, from earlier and interpretation from staff is, while I understand the HPC doesn't really have a defined role in the market assessment itself, as it's being run through a different department, it is being presented to us, and I do agree that it's a key piece of, kind of the project proposal moving forward. And so it should be either included in our backup materials, or potentially there could be a co-presentation, at least as far as the presentations will be heavy on communicating the findings from this report to us, so that we ensure we have the information in the staff here that can really speak to it to help answer our questions about it. Because it is integral, and to Commissioner Stodel's point earlier, I also think, I haven't had a chance to go through this, but if there's not kind of a financial analysis, that seems like there could be a real key piece missing there, especially because, as I understand the proposal, although you didn't touch on this today, is you do want to separate the properties and remove the commercial elements from the theater itself. And so removing that likely takes away a large revenue stream from the theater, and it's really difficult to assess whether or not the theater could be financially viable on its own without including that in the assessment as well. I realize the assessment is already underway, but I would recommend that that be part of this process too.
I believe that it actually contemplates that. I mean, it says, we understand that the project requires evidence-based market and financial framework that can answer the fundamental question, can this project succeed? So I don't.
It may be in there, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm gonna, Commissioner Laramie, I don't know that it's in the first phase as I described to you. I think the first phase is really addressing or evaluating, is there a need before you look at the financial aspect of it? But I've had several talks with AMS, and I do believe that part of what they're going to do is, once they understand what it looks like, is laying out the best pathway to make this work on all sides, and even from the financial end. So I believe that that is a part of the assessment.
Are there other questions from the commission?
Madam Chair, Seth Floyd for the record, if I could offer a comment to your comments that you just made. I think one of the reasons why, and I'm trying to put myself in your shoes, one of the reasons why this is confusing is because normally if the city were just on its own doing this market assessment, we would wait until it was done and they would come and give you a report. The reason why you're hearing about it in pieces throughout is because on a totally separate track, Jay is obligated to come to you and give a report because he's got a burden he has to meet under the settlement agreement. And so because these things are going on, he is understandably using that as rationale for the progress that he is making. But we are not on the same track. And I think that may be why there is some confusion, because we are not at the finish line of the phase one that we contracted for. So we are happy, and I'll talk to Parks and Rec. I'm sure they're happy to come and give a presentation to you on the results once it's finalized, but we are not prepared to do that yet. But I understand from where you're sitting, it's confusing because you want all of this information all at once, but we're on two kind of separate tracks that are intersecting here. So that's just my comment, just to frame what I've heard today.
Okay. So my question, Chair, is understanding the process. And the process is, it sounds like this first one is simply, is there a need? We know there's 2 or 3 theaters downtown, nonprofit groups, the Mirage and the Majestic, I mean. But their venues are very small. And to say that the Mirage, the Majestic, which was named after initially our first theater in Las Vegas, 1910, one of them, that they say, yes, we'd love to come over to the Huntridge, but the reality of whether or not they could afford to come over to the Huntridge is going to have to make money in order to operate. I don't mean profit money, I mean money to operate, to keep the lights on, to keep the insurance on, all those things in order to keep the doors open. So they can say to folks, come on over and put on a show for a week and we won't charge you anything. So it's all those financial elements that this initial, which we were told was going to be a feasibility study, it's really to see if there's a need. And what Mr. Dapper said at his last presentation is he already knows the answer. There is a need that's out there. This is simply going to reinforce what is available for these places to go. The city's got any number of theatrical places, theaters that it could use, but the Huntridge is very special. So the question really for us is to be brought along in this information process, so when there's a decision to be made, and the decision largely is going to come from the city, sounds like they haven't even decided whether or not they want to participate in buying it. Can you answer that? Has the city decided that?
So, yeah, I would say, I mean, there's no doubt that the city has not made any commitment that they would be buying the theater.
Okay.
I would say that. And to speak further to your point, I mean, I think that the assessment that we're talking about, I mean, it's actually, my gut feeling before this process started was, yeah, there's a need. This process has educated me, and there's 40 users out there, not 40, that I believe, are, either homeless, couch surfing, or don't have, a good.
The question is, can they afford the Huntridge?
Oh, no, I know.
Can they afford? That's the biggest question. Not that there's my next door neighbor wants to put on a show.
Yeah, no.
Can he afford to rent the Huntridge? But anyway, that's
part of their assessment. And when I say that,
okay.
What I didn't understand. It's not just saying, what do you, in a perfect world, what do you want? It's also, part of it is the financial viability of it. Would you pay less than what you're currently paying? Would you pay the same amount, or would you pay more? And what would that look like? Right. All of these questions are not only being asked, but tracked and understood. But that goes, and I'm going to say the direct connection to what this board is here to do is that's going to dictate ultimately what changes may be brought before you to reapprove.
Right.
Because ultimately, what I can tell you is what's been designed today needs to have some changes. There's no doubt in my mind that that's the case. And then the assessment that's going to happen that's going to tell us, okay, what do these changes look like? There's a chance that I could be coming back before you and saying, phase one is the renovation of the theater. And these boxes that are in the back, these will be built at a later date. And so we're going to have to explain that and then also visually show you what that looks like. And if
Right,
that
right.
means,
My point is these are steps, and that's why we just need to be brought along on the information process, and also the difference between renovation and restoration. Those words are not interchangeable as far as this group is concerned. The question is, you brought up at the last meeting that you want to see several changes made in the legal agreement that currently is with the state of Nevada, the city of Las Vegas, and yourself and the HPC regarding the judgment and some other things. Has that been formalized and presented to the changes that you want to make to the city attorney's office?
no, so going back to this, so that's the very reason we have, we'll call it a legal category. So we have a large local firm that specializes in, government work like this.
Okay.
They've agreed to come on board, take this pro bono, and be on this advisory board and work with the city attorney's office. We just got the commitment from them within the last few weeks. And so the point of this is, if this is going to be truly nonprofit, which is the goal, we've got to have all of these components, and we've got to have somebody that's, on our staff that's going to be able to work with the city attorney's office to do that.
All right. And so you hope to have this all worked out by the end of the year?
Well, we have, as I said, I'm presenting something that doesn't have the candidates or notes in it because I don't think it's appropriate at this point to, put that out into the public. But so the answer is yes. So most of these categories, we have several candidates. We've talked to, those people and said, hey, would you like to participate in this? These are the skill sets that we're looking for. And so far, I haven't had one person say, no, I'm not interested. Everybody's like, yeah, I would love to be a part of that.
Question?
Chairman, real quick, I think it is important to add that any changes to this agreement between the city and the state would probably be at the end of whatever came out of discussions with the city manager's office and the city council about what they'd like to see happen with this. We, as you know, are like bartenders, right? You ask for something, we give it to you, right? So once all the policymakers and decision makers have come to a deal, then they come to us and say, okay, help us work out that deal. And so I would say, just so you have an understanding, the legal part of this wouldn't come first. It would come last.
Commissioner Moody, so it seems to me if the effective date of this contract was May 20th, and we're looking at 90 and 120-day deadlines, we have a couple of months before we can expect this analysis to really know more. So I know Mr. Dapper is coming in periodically reporting. I'm going to look forward to 2 or 3 months from now when we have more in front of us to be able to ask what I would consider more intelligent questions. Just a comment, not a question.
Thank you. Commissioner Harper, I'm sorry.
Commissioner Harper. Thank you, Mr. Dapper, for the presentation. Can you tell me the current status of the construction and construction staging in the parking lot of the Huntridge and when you expect that construction staging to be finished?
I don't know. It's a city public works project, so they only give us a quarterly update. As of right now, there's still a need, and that's still ongoing. Everybody in the area is excited for that to come to an end, but unfortunately, it looks like it's moved up to the Arts District now, and it's going on there, and everybody there is up in arms currently about, the disruption that's causing. So what I can do is I can ask and see if they can forecast out. The general contracting group that I'm working with, is they're the contractor that's hired by Public Works through this project. And so they provide an update, but they have not given me an indication of how much longer that they would need the space. We did, however, and I mean, this is a total side note, but, you know, we're constantly looking for ways to utilize the theater. And during the NBA, you know, Summer League, you know, the last couple of weeks, Nike and the NBA contacted us, and they ended up actually shooting an amazing commercial inside the Huntridge Theater. They set up like a basketball court and some other things. I had to sign an NDA. I can say that it happened, but, you know, I've actually seen the pictures of what they did. They had, you know, NBA players there. It was a pretty cool thing that happened. And they did say that once it gets released, I'll be able to share it. So like the next time I come back, I could show that, and it's kind of cool. But you know, even though there is this construction going on and they are staging and utilizing the parking lot, it's not like, you know, it hasn't allowed us to, you know, continue to kind of take care of the theater and the inside, because they're just around it.
Just a follow-up question. You said, so you had a film crew, you had staff, so how many people and how much equipment did you have in the theater for that?
You know, when you say like how many, I wasn't there supervising it. So, you know, it was a production crew. I mean, a year and a half or 2 years ago, we had Christina Aguilera shoot a commercial or a video in there. So it was like similar to that. I was out of town, and I was only there for the first day of setup, and then I left. But I did get to see the pictures and a little snippet of some video, and it was pretty cool.
Just one last question. You mentioned, has the appraisals been done?
I think that another really good piece of this assessment will be, there was 2 appraisals done. One that I completed, I've provided that to the city. One that the city initially did. The issue is, I think that the appraiser didn't have the right information. I don't know if I mentioned this the last time I was here, but they evaluated or appraised it as land, meaning like wiping the building off the face of the earth. And that's not the way, obviously, that's not what any of us want to see. So I don't think that an appraisal, you know, appraising it as a raw piece of land is appropriate. I think that once this assessment is complete, I think that what we could do is we could go and have another appraisal done.
Okay, last time when you were here, it sounded like you were going to have a third appraisal.
I think that we have to wait until at least the first phase of this is done, because part of what the appraiser that was working on behalf of the city, they couldn't get over the fact that it was an older building, and they were just saying that they didn't think the highest and best use was renovating the building. And so, did you guys get a copy of that appraisal?
No.
Of the appraisal that you did?
No, not the appraisal. So the city got an appraisal.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. We have that appraisal. Yes.
yeah, so
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm sure that could be provided. It's not going to give you much. Again, it's appraising the Huntridge as a piece of land. So I don't.
Just a couple other questions. This is probably more for staff. The Huntridge designation on the city register, does that apply only to the Huntridge Theater, or is that for kind of the complex itself, since the buildings are connected?
So, I'm sorry, say Brent for the record, only the theater is on the register. So the 2 older buildings, that was the bank and the post office, those are not part of the historic register. So it's just the tower, the inside of the theater, and what was originally there. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, it did. And I'm just mentioning that, although, you know, this may be out of our purview anyways, but I do have some concern with those properties being separated, and this is just for the record, that there is potential for future design of those buildings to really take over the hunterage and minimize the building itself. And so I think that, you know, as we move through this process, it would be important to recognize that and potentially put an overlay or some sort of design guideline on those buildings to ensure that the hunterage remains the focal point of that entire lot, rather than letting those buildings eventually overtake the hunterage, especially if they're going to be separated. That's all I have. Commissioner Levine, anything? Sorry.
Commissioner Levine, for the record. The commercial buildings that we just mentioned, the bank and the post office buildings, are you still proceeding with obtaining tenants and building it out and
Yeah,
all that, or is that all on hold as well?
Well, yeah, I mean, part of this assessment, I mean, we, for sure, we're going to proceed forward, but we're not going to start construction on that before this is all sorted out because it wouldn't be appropriate. I mean, it'd be very difficult to, let's say, renovate those buildings and then all of a sudden be, you know, under heavy construction on the theater. That wouldn't work. So it all has to happen at the same time. We do have a lease signed. You guys have seen renderings of what we propose for those buildings, and right now there would be no changes to those buildings. I mean, as what we've proposed in the past is what it would look like today, but not putting the cart before the horse. I think that this has to be worked out before I move those forward.
Wasn't there supposed to be a certain number of days or whatever that the buildings were accessible to the public, or there needed to be an open house at least, or something?
Well, yeah, so it's that we need to allow for anybody to come and do tours anytime they want, which that's been ongoing. So we get, you know, inquiries all the time. I mean, we don't do them every day, but when somebody wants to come in and see the inside of the building, you know, we make it open and available to do that. And I mean, I've extended that invite to you guys. A few of you have come and toured the building, and you know, you could come anytime. So, you know, that's absolutely, you know, I know that both Seth and Diane have both come to the building, you know, at multiple occasions, and if you guys would like to come, you know, please let us know.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Well, I think we're done. Thank you for your report today, Mr. Dapper.
Yeah, thank you very much for your time and consideration. I appreciate it. I hope you all have a good day.
Thank you. Moving on to item 6, 26-0337-HPC1, discussion for possible action regarding approval of funding in the amount of $15,950 to hire COTS Environmental Consultants Incorporated to provide information for new signs and to review and revise existing historical information signs at Floydland Park at Tule Springs, located at 9200 Tule Springs Road.
Thank you. C. Brent for the record. So I know that we've had several discussions about these signs, so I'm not going to dive deep into this since we all are aware of their condition and their need for revising, checking for any errors, and reprinting them. So again, these are what the signs look like. Oh, we just have the one. And speaking with CATS Environmental Consultants, they've submitted the proposal that's in your backup with the scope of work showing that they will review the text and images of the existing information signs, and that includes the outdoor and indoor signs. So there are several indoor signs in the what's called the Foreman's House, which is now the Visitor Center, but that's not always open, so I'm not sure if everybody has seen those. Those obviously have not been damaged by any environmental elements. They're not faded like this. But during when we had the same consultant do the report, they did identify that there is a female in a photograph that was identified incorrectly. So that would have to be changed. And so this is a project that we're working jointly with our Parks and Rec and Cultural Affairs Department. So HPC is being asked to fund the consultant to do the research and provide the content in the amount of $15,950. And then once we have all that, and those of course would come in front of the commission as we move forward to make sure everybody is, happy with the language and the narratives. And soon as that part is done, then we give that to our Parks and Rec and Cultural Affairs staff, and then they will print them and install and mount them back at the park. So, any questions?
Commissioner Moody. Thanks, Commissioner Seabrun. So it's my understanding, besides reviewing the existing 41 signs, they are going to be recommending content and photos for 10 new signs. Is that right?
Correct. Yes, sorry, I failed to mention that. So, right. Taking from the report that they did separate into the timelines. And again, this is in your backup. The new information signs each sign would say, all right, the pre-contact is one sign. 1855 to 1903 is another sign, and so on and so forth. And so those would be placed, we'll have to work with Parks and Recs to see where we can put those signs.
That was exactly my question.
We have to work with them to see where we can.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that will not be part of Katz's recommendation. It'll be the city's recommendation about where they're placed.
Correct, yes. The consultant does not tell us where they need to be placed. That would be on, as far as whatever Parks and Recs, whatever constraints they work within.
Right. You're going to get my vote for approval on this. Hopefully we can move this along quickly. The signs we're looking at are to the better signs that are in the park. Some of them are so sun faded and weather beaten you can't even read a word on it. So I'm anxious to see this approved.
Couple of questions. One is if you look at the size of the signs there, the three sizes that are in the report. One is the small signs, the large, and then of course the big welcome. Those are the extra large signs. I'm intrigued as to how some of the most important structures there get small signs and some of the least. Will this report provide suggestions or recommendations on the size of the sign? And I say size in the sense that it's going to provide more space to give more historic information why this particular building is really a contributing factor, an important contributing factor. The question is, will this report deal with the size of the sign? If it doesn't, can it? And then as you look at some of these signs, two very important contributing structures are on the same sign. And I'm wondering why they don't have their own individual signs. And my question is, can the report make recommendations on the creation of new signs for the important structures that are there? And then I think the last, there are 4 signs that are there, but there's no more features or sites or buildings, and whether or not, like the Turkey House, the tennis courts, the Cook, and the Gun House, why do we have signs for these if those buildings don't exist? Are they is the tennis courts that critical that it needs a sign? If it does, great. The turkey house, the gun house, will she have the consultant have the opportunity to look at each of these signs and say, you know what, this is not necessarily that important, but this place over here should have a sign, or is she going to be confined to just analyzing the verbiage on the signs that are there? If that's what the contract said, I would recommend expanding it. And then potentially she may run across, based now that the consultant is one of the experts on the history of the site, whether or not she may say, you know, there's a couple of places here that need signs that are not part of the original 30. I would hope that she would be able to, we would include that if she's got an idea for a new sign, to include that in the report. Those signs are just been so great and so helpful out there, and to see the sad condition, I'm assuming Parks and Rec are looking at better signs, or at least, I think, Diane, when we were out there, if they could just move the signs to the left or right, they wouldn't be in the direct blaring sun, because some of the signs that were not in the direct sun were okay. So it really is the placement of that. But that's, I guess, is not her function. Thank you.
Okay, so I hope I remembered all your questions.
I'll be more than happy to ask them again.
Okay, well, or you can send me your documents. So the size of the signs, I honestly do not know how that was decided. I'm not sure if it was based on photos and the amount of text that was there. I really don't know the answer to that. Does it have to remain the same size as it is now for the revised signs? That is what we were working off of, but if you think that you would prefer to see different sizes for different signs, then we'll have to revise the proposal a little bit. It's not that it can't happen, it can, it's just that's not in this proposal.
For example, is the Adobe Hut, which is one of the most historic. It has a small sign. And to me, it should have two signs, one at both ends, so people could see how important that Adobe Hut was. But rather than a small sign, it should have not just one large, but one at each end of the building. I guess what I'm saying is I hope that the consultant has the opportunity to make any recommendations regarding the signs, or adding new signs or changing the sign just beyond the verbiage. The Lush report, I had an opportunity to read it over the weekend again. It's really a great document and very helpful for preserving the history of that important site.
Seabrand for the record. If you want to add that in, we can add that the consultant makes that recommendation, absolutely.
Thank you.
And your other one about, I mean, it kind of goes along with what you just said as far as if there's two elements that are on one sign, should that be separated into separate signs? Again, we can include that, and we'll just, again, have to change the proposal. About your question about the non-extant structures, so I think it's important to identify them, that they were there. For instance, the gun range is now a restroom, and it's important that I think that we have that there so people understand what was there, not in addition to what is still standing. So I do, I mean, if this commission does not agree, you know, that's your prerogative, and you can let me know. But to me, I think that we still need to identify things like the swimming pool, because you can still see the outline of the swimming pool, the tennis courts and the cookhouse, because it gives you more of a visual of what it looked like in its heyday of, you know, the 30s, 40s, 50s, rather than just looking at, you know, like, because now the tennis court and the cookhouse is grass. But I think it's important that we show where those places were.
The last question I have, which I just noticed, this place did not, one of the signs says casino, and it never had a casino. I mean, can we clean that up a bit? I
Yes.
mean, we're leaving the impression there was a casino out there.
Yes, and we did speak about this. I spoke about this with Zoe yesterday. So that came from the 2009 report, and no, it was never a casino, a licensed casino. It was a building where people, the guests, would go to play cards or play poker. So they called it a gaming house, and they called it a casino just in passing, but correct, it was not. We can certainly take that off, or we can include in the sign that says, this is why it was referred to as such.
I think an explanation would be fine, rather than, because it was historically, that's what they called it, then we should leave it, and then, but I think explain that it wasn't, there weren't slot machines and there weren't, okay, great. Thank you.
Of course. Any other questions on this one?
Just a follow-up question to that conversation. So I do see in the proposal that the 4 signs that are for the features that are no longer extant are not included in the proposal, and that they may require additional research. So are we able then to add those in, ask that they be added into the proposal?
Yes, we can. Sorry, Seabrant, for the record. Yes, we can absolutely do that. This is great feedback. I'll go back to Zoanne and she can revise the proposal. So that would obviously change the dollar amount a little bit, since it would require some more research and a few more hours of their time perhaps on some of these other changes that we're asking for. But so if that is the case, then you would not be able to approve this proposal today because we are going to change it.
Okay. So do we need to take an action?
It is an action item, so you can deny it. I'm going to let
Oh, can the
Director
city
talk.
attorney, can we make those changes and still pass it?
I don't know what the dollar amount, though, is, because if they charge for additional research, and I don't know what their fees are until they give them to me, because they have to determine how many hours they have to work on it. But I think that Seth wanted to jump in here.
Yeah, Seth Floyd for the record. I think what I would probably do is if you wanted to obey this item, and then that way it stays on in case they come back and say, we actually can do that work under the scope of this agreement, you can vote on it next time. It also gives Diane the flexibility that if it does expand the scope and they need to give a new proposal, she can prepare that and get it on the agenda, and then you could just withdraw it at the next meeting and then approve the next one. That, I think, would probably be the easiest way to do it and gives you the most flexibility for your next meeting or two.
Okay. Before we take a motion, does anybody else have any comments or questions?
Yes, Chair, this is Commissioner Grimmer.
Yes, please.
So my first comment is I think I would agree with Diane that recording and being able to cite the parts of the ranch that no longer exist but were there is a good idea. So I would agree with adding that to the proposal. But my other comment is, because at some point we also have to pay for the actual signs. This is just for the research and the content, right? So my other comment is, and this is maybe just my personal preference, but it seems like 10 separate signs to describe just the timeline. I guess in my mind that seems like a lot, but maybe that's just me.
Seabrant, for the record. So first of all, this commission is not paying for the printing or the installation. Our part of this, with working with our colleagues, is we're paying for the consultant to provide the content. So the Parks and Rec and Cultural Affairs, they are responsible for the actual printing and the creation of the signs. Now, a lot of these signs out there, the stands that they are on are still in good condition, so could be just reused. The ones that are not, they would replace. But that expense does not fall on us. We're just for the consultant to provide the information that will go on the signs.
Jack Levine for the record. Isn't there any way to do an amendment that says that with a 10% slush fund for additional work to be done in the future? That we could get, that the project could actually just get started now instead of being obeyed or obeyed again and being put off for months and months and months?
I suppose I could answer that, Chairman. The answer is, we already have a contract. We have to amend it. We can't kind of do that on the fly and just get going. So I think Seth's suggestion is probably the wisest. If they can do the work that the extra work you've asked for, within that cost, then we can get it going next time. If not, hopefully we'll have a new scope of work and a new price for you to approve next time.
Why don't we pass what we've got and ask them to make those changes to get the pricing to us and then come back with an amendment to the contract?
Yeah, Seth
in a
Fleur,
month
I
or
mean,
two.
I suppose you could do that, but then they would, for this price, they would do this scope of work. You then have to come back with a second contract for the additional scope, which you could do. I mean, I'm just thinking for Diane here, that might make it a little harder to manage because then she's got two very intertwined but separate contracts. So
Yeah, but
that's
at
not
least we
really.
could get started on it now.
But the good thing is that we might get everything we need for the price we already have.
Okay, well,
Right.
but we'd have to pass this then to find, or get it.
You would still be amending the proposal because they're going to add, when Diane manages these, well, I don't want to speak for exactly how she does it, but I think what she does is she's looking at, that proposal outlines 10 different things that CATS is supposed to do. And so she's going to make sure, okay, you did number 1, you did number 2, you did number 3. What you've just added to it is not in there. And so if you could approve that today and they could start on the other items, I just think that's going to be a little messier for Diane to try to manage that contract. And we can get it on, I think we can get it on next meeting so that the delay is only, the 30 days between now and the next meeting.
Correct. And so our next meeting is September, wait, what is this, July? Oh, gosh, August 28th, I believe. And so it would just be a short delay, but it will 100% be on the August agenda.
Okay.
Commissioner Laramie, just a quick follow-up question again. On the proposal for the 10 new signs, is this coming from the consultant who put together the proposal? Or is this responding to, something that was suggested in the scope or the RFP that was sent out?
Seema, for the record, that was, it came from staff. It came from myself.
Came from yourself?
As
Okay.
far as, because when we did the report, we wanted to use the report to update these signs. And because the timelines never had signs, but it's included in the report and it's important information, we should have signs for it.
Gotcha. So just reflecting on some of the other comments that have been made, maybe this section, just becomes additional signs up to a certain number that at the consultant's recommendation, and that could be timeline or other signs for specific sites or buildings, and they could provide a recommendation and content for how to break that up. Because I do agree the timeline is important. Perhaps it doesn't need to be on all individual signs, though. There could maybe be, some consolidation around the site as appropriate. Maybe not, I don't know, but it seems like this section is where we could build in some flexibility for the consultant to respond to.
Okay, yeah, we'll get this back to her today, and they have a quick turnaround time, so they'll get me some quickly.
Okay. I think we're then looking for a motion to obey.
Didn't you make a motion?
Commissioner Moody, no, but I'm happy to move to obey this item to next month's HPC meeting.
And that would be the August 28th meeting.
No, that would be August 26th.
Oh, I'm sorry, August 26th.
I said
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to obey this item to the August 26th meeting. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries with the chair also voting in favor. Item number 7, 26-0338-HPC1, discussion for possible action regarding approval of funding in the amount of $200 to renew the Historic Preservation Commission's membership with the National Alliance of Preservation Commissioners.
Seaborn, for the record, thank you. So this is, again, we have our memberships. This is one that allows us, as we're going to be heading out this evening, to attend the conferences that are required by SHPO for us to attend these conferences. And we do get a discount by paying this $200 renewal fee. And it also does come with, they have all the wonderful webinars. If I'm hoping some of you have been able to watch those that do come through throughout the year. So we just need approval for the HBC funding on this amount.
Commissioner Levine has made a motion to approve. Do we have any comments beforehand, before we take a vote? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? This item carries with the chair also voting in favor. That brings us to item number 8, 26-0339-HPC1, discussion for possible action regarding approval of funding in the amount of $250 to renew the Historic Preservation Commission's membership with the National Trust for Historic Preservation Leadership Forum.
Thank you, Seabrant, for the record. So again, this is our second membership. Again, they do have the conferences and some of the extracurricular activities. And this one is $250 for the National Trust for Historic Preservation.
I'd move to approve that. Jack Levine, for the record, I move to approve that.
We have a motion on the floor to approve. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion carries with the chair also voting in favor. Item number 9, 26-0340-HPC1, a discussion regarding historic preservation projects to fund for fiscal year 2027.
Thank you, Seabrant, for the record. So, Chair Laramie, I know that you did ask for an approval item on this, but it's hard to approve something if it's unknown. So we need to be strategic in our what we are going to be looking at funding for. So these are a list of potential preservation projects. So the first one is the historic context for the Arts District. This is important because of all the changes that are happening within the Arts District, and it helps our planning department as well. And this one is, we are going to be applying for, SHPO just sent out their second rounds of HPF grants. So we will be submitting for a grant for the Arts District on that one. Kind of overlapping the Arts District is the Gateway District. And this is another district that is receiving a lot of attention from the city and I don't want to speak out of turn. Is it development? Do you want to explain that, what's happening there?
Yeah, so as Diane mentioned, as the Arts District has grown, some of that growth has spilled over into the Gateway District, which of course is also the north end of the Strip. And we've had a couple of meetings. In fact, Michael Cunningham, before he was promoted to the acting public works director, had 2 neighborhood outreach sessions with folks from that neighborhood about future growth and development there. And so I think the reason that made the list is because, like the Arts District, that is seeing some attention for investment right now. And if we were doing the Arts District, I think the thought was we could also do a survey of that Gateway District as well and get ahead of some of that growth with doing that survey now.
Thank you.
The geographical boundaries of, just rough.
Yeah, the Gateway District zigzags a little bit, but roughly it's Paradise actually on the east, the railroad tracks on the west.
Okay.
Sahara to the south, and I think it goes all the way to Wyoming.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, I was gonna say, I think the northern boundary is Wyoming, yeah.
Big area.
It is, because at first we were going to incorporate the Arts District and the Gateway District together, but after speaking with Mike, and Mike, if you wanted to jump in here, you can, it's just too big of an area. So we would do this more like a phased project of, we want to do this whole area. The first phase is Arts District, the second phase is the Gateway District, including the Naked City.
For the record, yeah, thank you, Diane, for mentioning that, because one of the things that we're attracted to from the planning side of it is there's always been a lot of lore about the Naked City. We really want to get the facts.
Okay, so but the Naked City is on the west side of Las Vegas Boulevard. Does this cover the east side as well, or are we just talking about,
No.
quote, the Naked City?
Just the west of Las Vegas Boulevard.
Ah, okay, okay. I for some reason, I was thinking it was going to go down to Paradise.
So,
That,
Yeah.
Commissioner Laramie, I believe that area is actually part of Beverly Green, and so would be considered downtown south now.
so yeah, I apologize if I'm making it confusing. The general area for the gateway, again, it's just echoing what Seth mentioned. So north of Sahara, pretty much the neighborhood established around the Strat. And then that is west of Las Vegas Boulevard.
Mike, I think the confusion is I said Paradise on the east side. I might have been wrong
Oh, okay.
about that. So.
Yeah,
we'll-
not as far, not, yeah, not as
Okay,
far
so
as.
ignore that part of, that sliver of what I said.
I'll send everybody the maps. I'm sorry, I should have brought them, but I didn't. Show you the maps. And again, this is just discussion right now.
That's great. I think it's a real important area to be.
Yeah. And so some of the others of potential projects, this has been mentioned several times in this, by this body, to amend the Floyd Lamb Park at Tule Springs, the National Register. Again, that was done in 1981, and it does need to be updated. That's something we probably would want to consider. I know Chair Laramie mentioned the Charleston Boulevard survey in the past, but I need to know what your parameters are, what you're looking for. And we probably should wait until the construction is done, because like right now, we have the Johnny Tocos moving forward, and we're having to work around all the construction that's now encroaching on that property. And then I know there had been discussions about doing strategic planning sessions. Again, I would need more information on what exactly the commissioners want out of that. And then there's the discussion about the camp training. And so I know that Teresa had sent out the surveys or the polls to everybody of what they want to do. And actually, I just got this email literally before I walked over here from SHPO. Now, of course, I can't find it. So they do have the dates set for the state the state conference. I'm like the absent-minded professor here. Forgive me. Shoot. Okay, so the actual camp will be on Friday, September 25th. Is that a Friday, Teresa? And they did send a memo that said that on Thursday, the 24th, and Saturday, the 26th, if I have those dates right. Oh, I found it. So what they do, this is the one-day training, would be an in-person workshop, but there is the virtual option for anybody that wants to watch it but can't attend in person, would be on Friday, September 25th. And then for those interested, SHPO will also be hosting optional networking opportunities and historic building tours on both Thursday, September 24th, and Saturday, September 26th. So when we get closer to this, I will have to ask for funding from this board in order to pay for the travel and accommodations for the commissioners that do wish to attend in person. But again, this will be a reimbursement grant from SHPO for us to attend this. So we need the money up front, and then they do reimburse us. And I just did want to confirm if everybody's good with this can you please raise your hand if you are going to attend the SHPO Carson City Conference in person? So 1, 2, 3. Okay, Nathan. Yeah,
This is Commissioner Grimmer. I'll be doing it virtually.
okay, Grimmer's virtual. Commissioner Cosgrove on the phone? Would you be doing
I'll
it?
be doing it virtually as well.
Okay. In person? Okay. So Nathan Todd.
I'll be doing it virtually.
Okay, good, virtual for, and Jack, you raise your hand and in person? And I know Michelle did, and virtual, okay, perfect. Thank you. So then, since I have these numbers now, then I can go ahead and get this information back to SHPO, and we can then get a price tag for this, this conference or this training. And then we also have what we talked about, the Las Vegas camp. And it looks like there's not one day that everybody is available, unfortunately. So we would either have to go with one where most people are available, which would be October 1st, 15th, or November 5th. Or what we can do is if we want to wait until after the state training, so that everybody under whatever they are going to be presenting, that we want to build on that, or is there something different that we want to do for the Las Vegas training that would be in person? Happy to hear your comments on that.
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
My comment would be, I'd like to go ahead and schedule something now. It's getting closer and closer, and so I would hope we could do it October the 1st.
This is Commissioner Laramie. Do we know the topics for the state training?
Yes.
I think as long as we know their topics, we could,
Yes, so topics covered by SHPO will be, 1 is legal basics, 2 is standards and guidelines, 3 is meeting procedures, 4 is design review exercise, 5 is community engagement and building community support, and 6 is preservation planning, how to prepare a preservation plan. And then the last time we did discuss this, the topics that this commission would like to see at the in-person Las Vegas camp is legal basics, and that's because we would want to focus more on specifically Las Vegas Municipal Code, where I'm assuming that the state would cover more of a statewide type information. Also staying with the in-person Las Vegas would be enforcement and violations. We did have community engagement and building community support, which does duplicate the one in the state training. I don't know if it would be differentiated from the state level to the local level. We can find out that answer. And the last one was social media strategies for Historic Preservation Commission. And again, that's what we discussed a couple months ago.
it sounds like, just from the one comment, there's an appetite to go ahead and get it scheduled, but I think it would be helpful to bring this back as an agenda item so we can re-look at the content and what we want to ask for that training.
So so you want to revisit the topics?
I think so, knowing that there's some repetitiveness between the state training and what we had chosen. Because I know there was a handful that rose to the top that we did remove to limit the training to I think 4 topics. So we could revisit and discuss if we want to pick up a different one or just hear it all together if we think there's going to be a more localized context.
So I'm sorry, Seabrant for the record. So you're saying wait until after September?
No, I guess I think that we should just bring it back to us when we can see the options again. so that we can decide what we want for the local, and then we can schedule it.
Okay, yes. All right.
Yeah.
Any other questions on the camp training?
Not on camp, but on Charleston.
Yes.
Yeah, my interest on Charleston is not the boulevard itself. It's, I think we had chatted, it's the residential areas on the north side, the south side of Charleston there around 13th, 14th. There's 3 or 4 different, very small, in the sense of maybe 30 homes or 40 homes that we have ignored is not the right word, but we have ignored because it wasn't a large residential development. There were just a series of some smaller houses in that area. And I think they're worthy, though, not only from the time frame, but also the architecture, that we should do a survey of those neighborhoods.
I'm sorry, did you say which side of Charleston?
On the south side.
South?
And maybe Jack can be a little bit more specific.
Yeah, well, 13th and the 14th Street, we're already, and for the record, east of Maryland Parkway, south of Charleston, you got the Hump Ridge, okay, and then it's actually the east of anything that's Hump Ridge.
East of Huntridge, okay.
And
Crestwood?
well, yeah, all the way into Crestwood neighborhood, but there's another name like on between 15th and 17th in that area. I used to know the name of the subdivision. I can't think of it now. Okay, I'll look it up.
Okay.
But those neighborhoods there, we've really ignored.
Okay, I'll take a look on the map. And then the last bullet point is anything else this board would like to discuss that are potential projects?
Commissioner Laramie, just on following up on the Charleston Boulevard suggestion. So my I guess idea and concern there is along Charleston Boulevard, there are a handful of Googie style properties that are small and currently being used by small businesses. But with the significant amount of construction, there's also, some rezoning, I believe, that's planned for transit-oriented development. There's additional studies happening right now for high-capacity transit and transit-oriented development. And so as these things start to move forward and take off, I do think that corridor becomes endangered of losing some of those properties. And so I think if we can get ahead of that and identify what's important in that corridor, I don't know that there's a district, but there may be some individually eligible properties or a non-contiguous district, which I know is also a nomination. We could start working with property owners now to try to educate them and preserve those buildings as redevelopment starts to happen. So that's what I had proposed for the Charleston Boulevard survey. And then also building on that, I don't think, there is also a neighborhood, well, many neighborhoods north of Charleston as well. One of which is a World War II era neighborhood. I believe it's called Mayfair. I may be wrong about that. Yeah, and that could be a potential neighborhood to survey as well.
Yeah,
Have
the Mayfair was surveyed.
Okay.
But it was a while ago, and I believe as a district, it was not eligible, but I believe there were several homes within it that were individually.
Yeah, we were Jack Levine, for the record, we were trying to combine Humbridge and Mayfair, and because of the being built during World War II and for the housing as their method of appropriateness, but all that failed. So.
For the record, if I could interject, I think, Jack, I think we're looking for Charleston Square.
Charleston Square, yeah.
Is the neighbor that, I'll follow up with Diane, but that's that area.
Sure, there's one
and
other.
Marycrest? Is there a Marycrest?
Well, Jack Levine again. Marycrest is just 14th Street and 15th Street is technically Marycrest, south of Oakey, between Oakey and St. Louis. But we generally refer to the Marycrest district being also including 16th Street, Chapman, Cochran, and 17th Street as the Marycrest district, certainly from a real estate standpoint.
Okay, so then, it sounds like we're talking about a huge area then.
Well,
And combining
that
all
whole,
this.
there's there could be several different
Right.
surveys done
Yeah.
in that area, including, I agree, the Googie and mid-century commercial buildings along Charleston. There's a lot of them there, actually,
Yeah.
okay?
Okay.
A couple other just quick questions about the first two. So the Arts District, I know we have done a survey there. So is the proposal to update that survey?
So, I did not see that we did a survey there. Now, we've surveyed in that area, and there's pockets that have fallen within other surveys. But when was the Arts District surveyed?
I'm not sure, and I may be just thinking of pockets that have
Okay.
been done. I just know that there has been at least some work done in that area. So
Yes,
I
there-
guess I'm clarifying what, if the intention is to expand beyond what has been done or to also update what has been done, because I think that was some time ago, and so there likely has been some changes.
So I didn't bring it with me, but I do have a list of the Arts District that was the parts that were surveyed. Like some of them were surveyed during when Main Street was being looked at as a district, and the railroad cottages. And so, yes, there's pockets of it have been, but we can revisit those. The most important part of this is the historic context, because although that area was heavily industrial, there still could be some information that we're missing from its history.
Yeah, and so that was my other question. So it's being proposed as a historic context, not necessarily a survey. So is the focus then is just to create the historic context for the area?
We could do both. Again, nothing is written in stone yet here, so we could do a historic context and a survey, building on those other surveys, yes.
Okay. And then also just another comment on the Gateway District. I think that I have mentioned this before, but there was a 106 report done for a property in Naked City that includes a substantial amount of information about Naked City and a historic context. And so you may want to look at that report, and there may or may not be a need to include that in the Gateway District. At least, there may not be a heavy research lift needed there, as that was done fairly recently as part of one of the city's neighborhood services redevelopment projects there. It was a housing rehabilitation project they did.
Was it a HUD project or a city project?
It was a city project, but it would have used some sort of federal funds to trigger the 106 report.
Okay, I'll have to, I'll get with SHPO to see that it has to be in Nevcrest, so we can get that.
And if I could just back up to your Arts District, are we talking about the official designated boundaries of the Arts District or the generic term which covers?
I'll let Mike answer that.
So the greater generic term, so going from Wyoming all the way up to, I believe, Bonneville.
So
Las
it
Vegas
include the
Boulevard.
Evel Knievel Museum?
It'll include the Evel Knievel Museum, which is technically in the core of the official Arts District.
Is there any move at all to expand the boundaries so that they're the official boundaries of the Arts District down to Commerce or?
There are. Ultimately, it would end at Wyoming as proposed to align with the ongoing development of a business improvement district so that everything makes sense. A lot of the goal is to meet what people think the Arts District boundaries are.
Okay, great, thank you. The other question I had is one of our oldest parks if we could get an update on the status of the Circle Park, the Hundreds Park. It just is, every time I drive by, the fences seem to get higher and higher, and I don't know what the city is. It's an awkward issue, an awkward place for a park, but I don't know if the city is even on anybody's agenda, but it is a historic, goes back to the Hundreds, mid-1940s.
So do you want an update as a future agenda item, or you want something to be done at the park? Or you want a report on the park?
Well, I would hope I would say, what I'm trying to understand, if there is my knowledge base about the park and its future, are there plans for it? Does that make sense?
Anybody else?
Commissioner Surface, Diane and Mike, could you provide maps to us at a future meeting of what's being contemplating today? Because I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, it's a
moving
little
forward.
confusing.
Yeah.
I have the maps, as I said, I just didn't bring them with me today, and I could have put them up there. But we'll send them to everybody and bring them to our next meeting.
Thank you.
Right.
So from this discussion, and I'm sorry, I hope I didn't cut anybody off. We don't have to end the discussion. But what do you need from us out of this discussion, Diane, in order to bring this back as an actionable item?
I would need, if everybody believes the topics on this list are something that need to be done, because obviously these all take funding, and in what priority. I believe the city will say the priority is the Arts District and the Gateway District. If you say there's already a lot of information out there, I'll find that. I know, so basically a priority list of how you would like to see these done. Oh, and I forgot the strategic planning session, or did I already mention that? I think I mentioned that. As far as what everybody believes is most important and perhaps in danger of losing.
I would suggest we put camp on the top, get that taken care of. For me, you've already got the top three, or the Arts District and Gateway. Those seem to be the stuff that the city is already working on, or is important to the city in general. Well, I like to, I read over the weekend the 1981 Floyd Lamb Park. That really needs to be updated. I mean, that's and a lot of work has been done, but that needs to be. I don't know. They're all the 1, 2, 3, 4 things on the top of the list are all pretty solid.
Anybody else?
Does anybody have any additional suggestions that they want added to the list?
There was some discussion, I don't know if this is the point about the 106, or we want to wait.
Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Laramie, I know what you're referring to now. I think that needs to wait for public comment. So we'll hold on that. Okay, so, I mean, I do, go ahead. Commissioner Grimmer.
Excuse me, Chair. This is Commissioner Grimmer. I guess if we're prioritizing the list of all the things that we've just discussed, I would also like to prioritize the Googie architecture along Charleston that you and Jack mentioned.
Okay. So it sounds like we have a pretty good list here that folks are passionate about and agree are priorities. So I don't know if maybe we can send out a survey or just take a vote at our next meeting on our top 3 or 4, whatever's within your purview. It could also, Diane, make sense to maybe put a few numbers to these things. And I know that you may not have an exact number without going out for a bid, but if we had a better idea of what these things were going to cost, we can also kind of prioritize in that way to understand what's going to fit with our budget for the next year too.
Also, just all over the record, I'd like to hear what your thoughts are in the order. Some of this is going to come from the city. So if there's a flow of the things that would fit in a time frame, I'd like to hear what staff's recommendation would be of those items as well.
Okay. Thank you, Seabrant, for the record. So the most time sensitive are the Arts District and the Gateway District. We can move the Charleston Boulevard survey up because it's not the same area, but it's tacking on to the areas. We do need to update the Floyd Lamb Park register. I absolutely agree with that. I read it again this morning, and then, yeah, 1981, it's lacking a lot of information. So on what I have here, and the camps are just, I mean, yes, we're doing those, so we can knock that off the list to say, yes, we're working on that. I would just switch the strategic planning and the Charleston Boulevard. No, actually, I would leave it exactly like it is. Maybe move Charleston Boulevard up underneath the Gateway District. But we can do, again, we can include these as phased projects of these surveys, and then we can have that as one project with different phases, and then we can also have the updated National Register. So that's it. Those are doable, but keeping in mind that the phase project is going to take a little bit longer to get to every single one of those.
Chairman, I would just say with regard to the order, you can either have an agenda item next time where you vote on an order, right? Or you can just know that your historic preservation officer has heard what she thinks the order might be. But as you know, we can't do surveys or votes offline without public input. So that's not an option for us. So either we have another item, or you just trust her to have heard what's been said today.
Yeah, I guess my proposal was we do the survey and then Diane brings those results back to us to vote on them. But if we don't need to have an official action on this, if you have enough information needed to move forward, I don't want to speak for commissioners, but it sounds like we think the top 4 are doable and some sort of prioritization and timeline over the next, year or so, maybe a little longer for the 3 projects, the Arts District, the Gateway, and Charleston that have some overlap. But if that's enough direction, we could potentially just leave it as is too with this discussion.
I'd agree with that, because likely over the next year, something else is going to pop that we don't even know about. So this is a tentative plan to begin with. So the first 2, I think, is largely what the city is working on right now. And the Floyd Lamb Park, that's just something that can come before us. We send that out. We get the Charleston Boulevard survey is going to need, I think, a little bit more thought about what specifically went the Googie on the Charleston side. I think we need to think about exactly where we want to parse those things out. So that may take a little more discussion.
Seabrant, for the record, I agree with Commissioner Stoddall.
Okay. Which, can you summarize what you heard?
So what we'll do is, and this is just a report, so there's no vote on this. Because these are just part of our, what we were going to discuss. So we are actually, I have most of the Arts District proposal already completed. That needs to be submitted to SHPO. And I'm now working on the Gateway District. Seth just did remind me that last week, 2 weeks ago, I put together for him a quick history of the Cashman District, because there's obviously the development going on there with the sale of the Cashman complex. And what they're going to develop that into, I think, a mixed-use residential area. So those are two that we are working on, the arts and the gateway, and those are just within the map of what we have, and I'll send that out to everybody. Oh, goodness, is everybody okay?
Yes.
So for the Charleston, yes, I'll need to look at the maps of Charleston to see where these different pockets of neighborhoods are, but then I'll get with Jack and you and whoever else that is giving their input on where you want to see these, what neighborhoods are within Charleston, so I can look at those and see how long it's going to take us to get those done. And of course, it depends on the size of the neighborhood or the whatever boundaries we're going to pick. So yes, that one will take a little bit more thought.
Okay, well, it sounds like we can return to the Charleston Boulevard conversation as you get a little bit more information and kind of a plan of attack there. But otherwise, the Arts District and Gateway are moving forward.
That is correct.
Okay, do we have any other comments on this at this time, or any desire to bring this conversation back to have further, prioritization of these projects moving forward? Okay, we will close out this item and move on to item number 10, a report by the Community Development Department regarding our director's updates.
So unfortunately, Director Floyd had to leave. Mike, do you know if he had anything? No director updates.
Okay. Item 11, report by the Community Development Department regarding the project update list.
So it's me again, C. Brent for the record. So for our updates, the Old Mormon Fort, the nomination that was sent back from the Park Service, edits are in progress right now. The Johnny Toko's Gym, we had our kickoff meeting with SHPO, and Katz Environmental is doing that, of course, and they've been put in touch with the owner, and she was meeting with them today to go over all the old photographs and the information he has. So that one's in progress. I failed to mention this at our last meeting, and my apologies, but SHPO did approve the Mob Museum expansion project, the same one that was approved by this board. And then we did already have our discussion about the state camp and the Las Vegas camp. And as I said, Teresa and I will be leaving tonight to the Minneapolis National Alliance of Preservation Commissions Forum, and we will have a report on those at our August meeting. And any questions on any of that?
Questions from the commission?
Well, we're not sure. I'm still, up for the record, not sure what the appropriate time, but since you're going to that meeting, maybe we can, will you be attending the session about this massive change?
On the 106?
On the 106?
Yes, absolutely. Why, okay, do you have something, Nathan? You keep looking at Nathan.
Commissioner Harper, for the record. No, on June 17th, the ACHP put out
Yeah, I saw
the
that.
revised thing, and
Yeah.
I didn't see it until the following Monday. And they're actually going to be voting on this on the 24th to make these changes. And so after that vote, it will go into the Federal Register for 30 days. It will be 30 days of comment on that. But these are incredibly sweeping changes that are happening with this this regulation. They're trying to change the definitions of historic properties.
Yeah, I saw that.
Trying to change the definition of effect, trying to remove SHPOs and TIPOs and CLGs from the actual process.
I did see that.
Public comment is not mandatory. It's just going to be if they decide to do public comment. And finally, it just leaves everything, it says the whole process is for the single agency official to make a determination at the end. So it just essentially says, SHPO can do the thing, TIPOs can do the thing, everybody can do the thing, but essentially in the end, it's the agency official that makes determinations.
So, I'm sorry, Jim, did you have something to say?
No, I might just remind the commission this is off agenda, and if we'd like to speak about this in any depth, maybe we could put this on the next agenda.
I can bring it back.
There's no ability to talk about this today, Bob. I'm sorry.
staff is going to attend this meeting, and we can certainly talk about what seminar she's going to go to.
Certainly, but that's it.
So I think there may be some confusion here. So there is at the forum a 106 review session, and I am attending that. I believe what Commissioner Harper's talking about is a separate meeting from the email that came out 2 days ago.
Yep.
Okay, those are two separate things. So my apologies. I thought you asked if I was going to be attending the 106 session at the forum, which yes, I am. We have not been invited to the other one. So they're two separate
I've
agendas.
been told to keep my mouth shut, and I'm going to do that. I'll talk to you afterwards at a non-public meeting, but the 106 panel you're going to is clearly going to be bringing up this topic.
Oh, right, they will. And so I'll send that email to everybody so you know what this is referring to.
Well, and Chairman, let me be clear. I can't stop anyone from speaking. I'm suggesting, sir, that the open meeting law doesn't allow us to speak about things that are non-agendized. And all I'm saying is my suggestion to you would be, and this commission would be, if we want to have a very in-depth discussion about changes being made by the federal government, that we have an agenda item for that your HBO can prepare for it and make sure that we can have your questions answered.
Commissioner Harper, for the record, this was just announced on June 17th. This is past the date when we can add things to the agenda. So how do we add something to the agenda that's after our date, and the decision is going to be made before we have another meeting to discuss it? And we have a very clear interest in what happens with this.
Certainly. One option can be that through your bylaws, the chairman can ask for a special meeting, and we can go ahead and agendize that. I'm not sure that the city holds special Historic Preservation Commission meetings, but there certainly is a mechanism for that. The fact of the matter is the state law is pretty clear. The public is entitled to know what you'll be speaking about because you are a public body. And so I can't stop you from speaking. I can't turn off your mic. If you guys want to speak about some things, you go right ahead. I'm just suggesting that there may be a way to do it where we both comply with the open meeting law, and you get to talk about the things you need to discuss. If there are things you need to discuss with the Historic Preservation Officer, we can do that in a couple different ways, which we can discuss later. We can have groups of non-quorum folks from the HPC come and talk to the Historic Preservation Officer. You can call the Historic Preservation Officer on your own and speak with the Historic Preservation Officer. I'm not here to say you can't do what needs to be done. What I'm saying is I am suggesting that we comply with the open meeting law.
Commissioner Laramie, I also just want to remind folks that public comment is also open to us as citizens. And so you can also, while we can't have any discussion on it, you can elaborate during the public comment period and put a comment on the record as well. And that would be item number 14.
But let me, if I can, sorry, Chair. If
Sure.
I can speak for that. So because this is very important, I'll get as much information from the forum as possible on that session and bring it back to this commission.
Thank you. And I guess my question would be, if there is a kind of a call to action with this announcement that the commission could respond to, I think it would be beneficial to look into having a special session, and if that's available, where we could decide on an action to take as a commission. I haven't had a chance to review this. I don't know what type of opportunity there is. It may be that it's best to just individually respond, but I just wanted to, I guess, since that suggestion was offered, provide my opinion that if there is a mechanism for us to respond as a commission, having a special session, although, did you say we have to respond by next week?
The ACHP is holding the vote on the 24th.
Okay. Well,
If I may, the federal process, the reason you put something into the Federal Register is to give all interested parties time to address issues, make comments. So while there may be a vote coming up, that's not the last opportunity for this commission to provide comments. You've got at least generally you get 60 days of comments. Sounds like this one's been limited to 30. So it sounds like you might have another meeting before then to have this conversation. If you direct your HPO to make comments to get onto the Federal Register, you may have time for that. But we're going to have to take a look at the schedule, and Commissioner Harper, if you could help us with dates on that, I think that myself and Diane would be appreciative.
Yeah, thank you. Commissioner Harper, yeah, they plan on putting it in the Federal Register immediately after the vote. So the 30-day clock will start then, and definitely we'll have a chance to comment on it then. It's just these are some significant changes happening that probably should have been discussed and reviewed before the feds moved on changing this.
Okay. So it sounds like we're a little ahead of ourselves, but we would like to see that on the next agenda to discuss. Any other comments on our update from Diane? Okay, we will move on then to item number 13, discussion regarding topics for future agenda items. Comments made during this portion of the agenda by individual members shall refer solely to proposals for future agenda items, and any discussion shall be limited to whether or not such proposed items are within the purview of the commission and whether such proposed items shall be placed on a future agenda. No discussion regarding the substance of any such proposed topic shall occur, and no action shall be taken. Do we have any commissioners wishing to share topics for future agenda items?
Chair, I think we forgot 12. Item 12.
Oh, I apologize. Can we take this out of order and stay on 13 and go back? Okay, we'll do that. Topics for future agenda items.
I'd like to put it as an action item, not as a report, but as an action item for the commission to come up with a resolution in regards to the specific changes that are being made by the federal government regarding a list of things that directly impact this board as well as the state board. I think we need to come up with a resolution. So anyway, I'd like to see that as an action item on the next agenda. Thank you.
Any other suggested topics? Okay, hearing none, we will go back to item number 12, 26-0341-HPC1, a report by the Community Development Department regarding historic and archaeological resources in local media. Again, this is a list that Diane puts together for us every month. Thank you, Dr. Seabrandt, and probably Teresa helps with this as well. Do we have any comments on our media summary this month? Okay, we will then move on to item number 14, citizens participation. Public comment during this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters within the jurisdiction of the commission. No subject may be acted upon by the commission unless that subject is on the agenda and is scheduled for action. If you wish to be heard, please come forward and give your name for the record. The amount of discussion on any single subject, as well as the amount of time any single speaker is allowed, may be limited. Do we have any members of the public who would like to comment at this time?
This is Commissioner Harper, for the record. Just a few things for other resources out there looking at this Section 106 rewrite. NAPC did send out an email to members discussing this, so that's probably in your inbox there. Society for American Archaeology, American Cultural Resource Association, Cultural Heritage Partners all have sort of YouTube sessions discussing the changes and what it means for cultural resources and historic preservation. So I encourage all the commissioners to get a chance to check those out and find those resources.
And this is a form, I'm not sure you can answer it, but what is the process that the city attorney's office has regarding boards and commissions adopting resolutions in regards to federal laws or changes in federal laws? Is there a process that this commission should go through in issuing its comments or resolutions formally?
I mean, Chairman Jim Lewis, Attorney's Office, that's a really good question. Now, there's not a policy per se. I mean, the duties of this board are enumerated in Title 19. There's a catch-all provision in Title 19 that basically says one of your duties is to do whatever you think is necessary as to historic preservation. One caveat, oftentimes when there are major pronouncements from a board of the city council likes to be involved in those things. It's just something to keep in mind when doing so, because sometimes a board might not have the same view as our elected officials. Now, sometimes that's okay because you are appointed because of your expertise. I just point that out as just something to keep in mind.
And with that, we are adjourned.